Well, hello everybody and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making chocolate and peppermint brownies. Now this is going to be a nice rich chocolatey brownie, and then I'm going to top that with a peppermint cream, allow that to set, and then I'm going to top that with more chocolate. So we'll do it in several stages. Here's the first stage. I have 200 grams of semi-sweet chocolate, and I have 225 grams of semi-sweet chocolate, 230 grams of butter. I'm going to put both of those into this bowl. And I'm going to melt those over a pan of simmering water, so I'll just set that going. I also have 300 grams of granulated sugar and 100 grams of soft brown sugar. Put that in together. I have 90 grams of plain flour, and I have 25 grams of cocoa powder, half a teaspoon of salt, which I'll put into the flour now, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 4 medium eggs. That would be large in the USA. So the first thing to do is to melt our chocolate and butter, and then I'm going to pour that into this bowl and allow it to cool down for 10 minutes before we go on to the next stage. Okay, so I didn't show you the melting of the chocolate. I just stirred it the whole time until it's melted, and I'm going to pour it like that into this bowl and just allow it to cool down a little bit. And while that's cooling down, I'm preheating the oven to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, and 350 Fahrenheit. And I've also taken a 13-inch by 9-inch pan, and I've lined it with this foil, and I've sprayed the foil with some baking spray, and so that's ready for our mixture. So I'll be back with you in a few minutes and we'll go on to the next stage. Okay, so I've let this chocolate cool down just a little bit, and I'm going to pour in the 2 types of sugar, the 100 grams of brown and 300 grams of granulated sugar. Just give that a bit of a stir. And then I'm going to whisk it. And then I'm going to add in the vanilla extract, 2 teaspoons, whisk that in as well. Now I should say that for the frosting I'm going to be using just some cream, some butter, some icing sugar and some peppermint extract. And then for the topping, I'm just going to use butter and chocolate chips. I'll give you those ingredients as we use them later on. Okay, so now I'm going to add the eggs one at a time and mix those in. And that's the final egg in. So then I'm going to sift in the flour and the cocoa powder, and that's mainly because the cocoa powder tends to clump and I want it to break down. Okay, so the final thing to do with this part of the process is to fold the flour and the cocoa powder in to the chocolate mixture. Until it's all combined. And once you've got that fully combined, take your tin and you just pour it into the tin and level it off. And it's fairly level already because it's still quite runny. And then that is going to go into the oven, and I'm going to let that bake for 35 minutes so that it starts to be firm on top, but a skewer poach in the middle will still come out a little bit sticky because we want the brownie to be nice and moist. So I'll be back with you after I've taken this out of the oven and allowed it to cool completely in this tin. Okay, so I'm back with you now, and our brownie has been taken out and cooled down. It's actually cooled down for much longer than I expected because I had to get on with some other things. But now we're going to make the mint topping. For that I have 240 grams of icing sugar, 112 grams of softened butter, 30 millilitres, that's 2 tablespoons of single cream. I'm going to use 1 1/4 teaspoons of peppermint extract, and I'm going to use a little bit of food colouring. Green food colouring, just a very small amount to give the topping a little bit of colour. So the first thing I'm going to do is to put this softened butter into the mixture, the icing sugar, and I'm going to beat that very softly to start with, very slowly should I say, to try to avoid the icing sugar going everywhere. And I'm going to pour the cream in at this stage as well. And then I'm going to speed it up to make it nice and fluffy. I'm going to let that beat for a couple of minutes. Then I'm going to add the peppermint extract. Okay, so 1 1/4 teaspoons of this. I'm just going to use this teaspoon and I'm going to guess at the quarter. Whoops, that's more than a quarter, so I'm going to just put that much in. And I'm going to mix that for a couple of minutes so that it gets fully combined. Just scrape that down a little bit. And while it's mixing, I'm going to just put in a little bit of the food colouring. That's optional, you don't need to do that, and I wasn't going to until I discovered that I had some green colouring in the cupboard. So I'll just give that a little taste. It just has a nice hint of peppermint, not too strong. So what we've got to do now is to spread that onto the brownie. So I'll use my offset spatula just to spread that all over the brownie, and then we're going to put it in the fridge for at least an hour to chill it again, because we're going to be pouring our chocolate topping onto that later. I'm going right up to the edge because I'm going to just straighten the edges after I've taken it out of the pan and the silver foil or the tin foil. Right, so that just goes in the fridge to chill, and I'll come back to you after an hour or so. I'm going to make the chocolate and put that on, and then we've got to chill that as well. Okay, so I'm back with you now, and it's been a couple of hours, and the mint topping has been refrigerating. So I'm going to put 200 grams of chocolate chips and 112 grams of unsalted butter into this bowl, which has got some simmering water. I'm just going to stir this until it melts. This will be our topping. Okay, so the chocolate and the butter have melted. I'm going to take that off the pan of hot water. Just give it a little bit more of a stir around, make sure everything is melted and combined, and then I'm going to pour that onto the mint topping, which is cold, so it's not going to melt. Maybe just a little bit will soften, but we'll firm it up again when it goes back into the fridge. So I'll just take my spatula again and push that chocolate up to the edges. So we spread that all over. And I'm just going to give it a bit of a shake. To level it off a bit. And then I'm going to put that back in the fridge for at least another hour for it all to firm up. Once it's firmed up, I'm going to take it out and let it come to room temperature, and we'll cut it. So I'll be back with you in just over an hour. Okay, so I'm back with you now, and I've chilled the brownie completely, and because it was chilled, it was easy to take out of this tin, and I've removed the tin foil. Now you could, if you wanted to, just take a knife which is very hot, dipped in hot water, and you could trim off the edges. I don't think I actually need to do it, but I will try it here. just to trim the edges off a little bit. But if you do that, you constantly need to trim off the, wash off the knife in hot water. And then, I mean, you can go all the way around. I've cut mine in two just for ease of use at the moment. And then what I'm going to do is just cut through like that. And then just cut down. And down. You can cut them into whatever size squares you want. I'll just take this small one here, and you can see that it's nicely delineated, and I'll just take a taste. That is very, very good. I actually wondered whether or not the peppermint flavour would really come through, but it does. Lovely, soft and moist brownie flavour, texture, and then the flavour of the peppermint coming through. So that's been it for today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video, and there'll also be a subscribe button below the video that you can click on to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen here, there will be an eye that if you put your cursor over it, a drop down will appear and you can see the recipe, or you'll find the recipe below the video as well. I will be back with you again in a few days' time with another recipe. So until then, happy baking.